Good evening, everyone. Today is our week 8 meeting, and I will start with the questions. What did you do last week? Wojo, would you like to start?
No problem. This week I focused on developing the interface and conducting initial testing, particularly optimizing the implementation of the optimistic locking mechanism. I also worked on verifying the system's handling of concurrency and performance to ensure stable operation under high concurrency scenarios. Additionally, I set up the testing environment to simulate real-world application scenario and observe the system's behavior. Thank you.
And Yao, how about you?
This week, my research focused on exploring the application of optimistic locking mechanism in e-commerce database. And optimistic locking, as you may know, allows multiple transactions to proceed without locking data resource upfront. And in our e-commerce data front, in our e-commerce database, it checks for conflict only at the final commit stage, especially in our other modules, which can enhance database performance by reducing the contention. And given the high transaction volume on e-commerce platforms, especially in our platform, and during the peak times, an efficient locking mechanism is crucial to maintaining data consistency without sacrificing speed. My main task this week involved understanding how optimistic locking can be implemented in the specific context of e-commerce, where multiple users frequently update product quantities, place orders, and modify cart items concurrently. I reviewed various implementations of optimistic locking, such as the time step based and version number based approaches, to evaluate which method best suits the e commerce platform that we are involved in. In addition, I conducted an initial experiment on a test database to observe how optimistic locking performed under different load conditions and including simulated high traffic scenarios.
And Ron, how about you?
Well, last week I completed the implementation of the interface for placing orders for like a single product, and we ran through some performance tests. And I believe our focus was optimizing our system's handling of high concurrency situations using optimistic locking with version control. And I believe the tests show good results, especially when compared to pessimistic locking and ad hoc transactions.
And John, what did you do last week?
So last week, I made significant progress on my project by completing the development of the orders interface. And this interface is crucial component as it allows us to manage order transaction efficiently, ensure that all user inputs are properly processed and communication to our backend systems. That's what I did last week.
And for me, I contributed to the development of Order API, focusing on refining the business logic for creating and managing orders. And I also conducted extensive testing of the Order API to verify that it behaves correctly under various conditions. And I also worked closely with my team to identify and resolve several bugs related to how transactions are managed within the API. And now let's move on to the second question. What we'll do next week? What would you like to start?
Yes. About next week, I plan to continue optimizing the optimistic locking implementations, focusing on resolving the performance bottlenecks by using more database indexing and caching technical to improve query speed. I will also expand the testing scenario to cover more edge cases. And finally, I'm aiming to refactor the project code to improve its readable and maintainable. Thank you.
And Yaya, what we will do next week?
And next week, I plan to address this issue by exploring hybrid locking mechanisms that incorporate both optimistic and a little bit pessimistic locking. Additionally, I work on fine-tuning error handling and retry logic to improve transaction success rate. That's all. Thank you.
And Ron, how about you?
This way, I'll probably be working on developing more backend interfaces, and this includes user balance updates and the payment processing. And I believe I'm also continuing our performance tests to further improve our system's transaction handling and ensure smooth operation under high user loads.
And June, how about you?
It's about this week, I will focus on the conducting more extensive testing of the order interface, and the goal is to simulate the various real-world scenarios, ensuring that the system can handle different types of orders reliably. And these tests are essential to identify any potential issues before the system goes live, especially under high transaction conditions.
And for me, I will continue performing integration tests for the order API, focusing on testing how it interacts with other parts of the system. And I will also review the error handling logic in the API to ensure that all failure scenarios are properly captured and that appropriate responses are returned to the front end. And let's move on to a third question. Are there any difficulties in your way? And Bo, are there any difficulties?
Yeah, during the development process, I truly encountered a few issues. First, there were inconsistency in conflict detection during concurrent transactions, leading to data integrity problem. Second, I faced performance bottlenecks, particularly in the database connecting between MySQL and Java. Lastly, the complexity of the project code caused debugging to take more time than I had anticipated. Thank you.
And Yao, did you have any difficulties?
I realized that while optimistic locking can reduce wait times, it may lead to higher failure rate when multiple users update the same record, and particularly during flash sales or promotions. This forced me to look deeper into balancing performance with user experience, as too many transaction retries could lead to delays or even failed transactions for customers. Another issue I ran into was configuring the database to manage error handling and transaction retries efficiently. Without proper error management, optimistic locking could inadvertently increase the load on our servers.
And Ron, how about you?
Okay, so one of the main difficulties I encountered was actually ensuring data consistency when multiple users attempted to place orders simultaneously. And the initial implementation used optimistic locking with version control performed pretty well in most cases, but I actually faced some challenges with rollback rates during peak loads. I believe this required additional refinements of our conflict detection mechanisms, which proved time-consuming. Moreover, managing concurrent updates to shared results, such as inventory and user balances, posed difficulties in balancing performance and ensuring transactional integrity. That's all the difficulties I'm at.
And June, how about you?
So I'm currently facing a key challenge is improving the system's stability and as more transactions as processed simultaneously as the risk of performance integration increases. To address this, we are exploring the optimization strategies such as improving or locking mechanism to prevent concurrency related issues. By fine-tuning these mechanisms, we are aiming to enhance both performance and reliability, ensuring smooth experience for end users.
And for me, ensuring that all the test cases for the order API cover the full range of the possibly edge cases, especially for handling concurrent requests and data consistent across different services is challenging. And also coordinating with other team members to make sure our API are integrated smoothly, particularly ensure that the order API align with the rest of the system is also challenging. And that's all the questions. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.